Today we are going to pick at Neo from Neo Cards and Comics YouTube channel, a little bit of the charts and graphs. Let's talk about it.
Dead or alive, you're coming with me.
First, I'm excited to announce our exclusive sports memorabilia sponsor, Game Day Legends. Guys, roll the clip. The clip! We talked about it. All right, we have a special delivery from GameDayLegends.com. Panini Authentic. What do we have here? Oh my gosh. Luka Doncic, signed jersey. And we've got one more, Fanatics Authentic. And we've got a Barry Sanders signed jersey inscribed The Lion King. Very cool. Thank you to Game Day Legends. Thank you very much to the folks over there for sending me my boy, Luka Doncic, a signed jersey. I'm really excited. They sent me a couple of different items that we're going to be sharing. They are going to also be sponsoring Off-Centered. They also sent Flip and Steve a cool item. And so these guys, check them out. Sports memorabilia, can you have 50 signed helmets in your house? Maybe, maybe not, depending on the size of your house. But for me, I really think it's awesome to have a handful of really key pieces. And these guys have tremendous stuff, over 20 years in business in the sports memorabilia space. Check out the website, and for a limited time, coupon code DAD, D-A-D, is going to get you 20% off all inventory on the website, D-A-D. Use that coupon code at checkout. All right, let's take a gander into what Neo was talking about here in one of his recent videos, and really what he's looking at is, why are Jalen Hurts cards so cheap in comparison to Burrow and Herbert and Tua and Trevor Lawrence? So he's kind of looking at charts and graphs using market movers. And let me first start off by just saying, whether you're using market movers or any of the data tools out there, there are gaps in this data. So when I look at data tool stuff, it is good, it's useful. These tools have a place 100%, but you also just have to take it with a grain of salt and also apply kind of your own thoughts to it. It is one data set. It's a specific set of data. It doesn't capture all of the eBay data. I've noticed, because I've used all of these, and this isn't the data tool's fault. It just doesn't filter through. I've noticed sales that I've made, stuff that I've bought, the sales just don't pop up sometimes in that sale history. But again, it's only as good as what eBay moves over. So whatever they're pulling from eBay, some of it, maybe it slips through the cracks. It's not their fault. It's just the way that it is. And then obviously they're not going to be able to capture the vast majority of the private sales, whether it be at card shows or in-person sales, etc. So while those tools are very useful, I'm happy to have something as opposed to nothing. If we go back a few years, it was literally just kind of flying blind. These do have a value to them, but you take it with a grain of salt, like I said. So we're looking at some data, and one thing that Neo said that struck me a little bit, it struck me. He said the Herbert to Hurts comparison seems the most wild. And he's comparing, just to keep it uniform, which I totally get, Silver Prizm rookies in PSA 10. So just to keep all things even. And he does mention, look, I know pops are going to vary on these cards, which is a variance that he talks about in his video. So Herbert has 168 currently PSA 10 Silver Prizms, and Jalen Hurts has 211. So about 21% more out there. And it's from the same set, 2020 Prizm, which I don't have either one of those cards, but I will say those cards are awesome. I mean, I've got a couple on the basketball side, 2020 Luka, PSA 10, and then also Lamar Jackson. The cards are gorgeous. So I get why there's so much interest in these cards. I will say, though, when you look at kind of these pops, and I'm not saying there's going to be 10,000 of these at some point, but I mean, I've got 9 retail blasters for 2020 Prizm football here, and there's a lot of that out there that have not been opened. And so I believe these pops will go up as time goes on. Like I said, I don't necessarily think there's going to be 10,000 PSA 10s. I don't even know if there will be 1,000 PSA 10s. Maybe, maybe not. But it's just something to keep in mind as we're looking at this, because we've got price points based on the rarity of the graded stuff, but that doesn't mean it's a rare card. All right, so we're looking at the chart that he ran January 3rd to January 30th. We've got Hurts at about $900 and the Herberts at $1,800. And that's what he means by it's wild that Herbert would be double the price of Hurts. But when you look a little bit at this thing, you've got 4 sales of the Hurts card and you've got 3 sales of the Herbert card. Very, very low selling volume. I mean, we're talking less than a handful of sales, a few sales that make up kind of this analysis, which makes it really, really tough. To me, there's just not enough data points to really get a good handle on it. But then when you also think about it, okay, Justin Herbert lost on January 14th in dramatic fashion, horrible fashion to the Jaguars in a massive comeback. And so leading up to that game, was there a lot of people buying into Herbert, or were there a lot of people that had kind of already had Herbert because they had been going back buying that stuff maybe a year back or maybe a little bit longer than that? So you have people that, leading up, were they trying to get in on Herbert when his prices are kind of already up, elevated? And then after the loss on the 14th, were people dumping Herbert? Would it be a good time to sell Herbert? My opinion is no. It'd be a terrible time. If you're already in, especially whether you're in Herbert at a low price and you've got some equity, so to speak, in the card, or you got in at a high price and you're like, man, I just kind of need this thing to get back to where it was or stay firm or whatever. January was not a great time to make any moves, probably. And so I think a lot of just that elevated Herbert price at $1,800 is just the fact that the holders, the people that have those cards, are just sitting on them. They're not selling them and they're not necessarily buying them. I'm sure there's probably, I didn't check it, but I'm sure there's bins on eBay right now for Herbert at $2,000 or $2,500 or whatever, up above that $1,800 price. So are you buying in at that price? No. Are you selling and maybe taking a loss? No, you're probably just going to hold. And I've had some feedback saying that, I'm just going to sit on my Herbert stuff. I like him long term. Only people that are probably moving Herbert are the folks that are just like, you know what? I'm done with it. Even if they're taking a little bit of a loss, I'm out on Herbert. He's not going to be able to challenge the Mahomes and the Josh Allens and the Burrows. Those are the guys. I'm moving into them. Or maybe I'm moving into basketball cards, or I'm going to throw money into wrestling cards or whatever. Or I'm going to put money, I'm going to buy 10 car washes for $80. I don't know, whatever. But I think this is a lot of players. We're looking at kind of a microcosm here of Herbert versus Hurts. But how many players out there are kind of like Herbert, where you're just not ready to move off of him yet? Maybe because it's a slight gain for you to sell, or it's a little bit of a loss or a loss for you to sell. And it's like, I may as well just sit on it. Unless you just really need the money, people probably aren't moving off of Herbert right now. Now, even if you are like, I'm out on Herbert, I bet a lot of those folks are probably going to wait until the summer leading up to the season, because that's kind of when football quarterbacks, the young quarterbacks kind of heading into the national. That's when there's a lot of trade bait at the trade shows. And look, it's fun. There's a lot of kind of speculative sports betting stuff that happens leading up to the NFL season where you're picking your horses. I mean, the folks that got in on Jalen Hurts, that would have been a guy that, going back to the summer of last year, he's the guy that came out on the other end. One thing, though, that I think is interesting, if you go back and look at some of these charts, there's a sale going back, of course, to the height of the market. That was like March of 2021 for Jalen Hurts, this card, PSA 10 Silver Prizm. And at the height of the market, it's like $1,200. And you're like, well, that's the height of the market. That's when everything was like stupid crazy. There's another sale in September of 2021, which is really when stuff had already began moving down. And it was at $1,150 for Jalen Hurts. Now that card, literally, I just looked at it and Neo had just run it from January 3rd to January 30th. I saw like a February 2nd or February 3rd sale, and it was $900. So literally everything went right for Jalen Hurts and the Eagles this year. They are heading to the Super Bowl. You've got all the hype and the run up and all the excitement, for the Super Bowl. And his sales are at $900. They're not even touching where they were in 2021. Now, not even just the height, but also coming off the height in September. And then they did come down off of that. I thought that was just kind of interesting when you hear a lot about player performance and how much does player performance drive prices. Just how crazy it was the last few years. This guy literally had the best possible season, maybe an MVP season with the best team in football, arguably. But I think he does have the best overall team around him. And his prices still are 20% off of where they were in 2021. Wild stuff. And like I said, I think the data tools offer some good visibility. It is a good tool, but you take it with a grain of salt. You look at all the factors, and then you kind of come up with your own decisions. Why are these numbers looking like this? What is the reasoning behind it? And that's one thing I really like about Neo's channel is he does try to tackle these sorts of topics. He does try to why is this way and that way? I do enjoy watching those episodes that he's got. So definitely check out Neo Cards and Comics. Guys, stay healthy, Stay awesome, and I will talk to you again later.